Ms. Marvel has a casting controversy. AT&T decides to kill theaters, and there's a lot of backlash. And we enter the Spider-Verse this morning on Midnight's Edge with Lauren Chen. Greetings and good morning to everybody in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the middle of the week. We've made it this far. We're almost to the end of the month, meaning almost to the end of the year. Welcome, everybody. With us, we have the boss man, Andre. How you doing?
Greetings. I'm good, thank you.
Glad to have you here. And we also welcome back a wonderful guest, Miss Lauren Chen. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Big fans of the channel.
Well, we're so glad to have you back. It's been too long. We're big fans as well, of course, as you know, and we're excited to talk all this news with you this morning.
Yeah, same.
Indeed.
Yes.
So yeah, we're so glad that both Lauren Chen could join us and that all of you could take the time to join us as well, especially now that we have Lauren here. I see many are excited for that, and so are we. So it's going to be cool to discuss what's going on in pop culture at the moment. And right now, Marvel is a little bit back in the headlines. They're going to be much more from tomorrow after they have this massive press conference. But speaking of Marvel, we got a super chat already. Sontar sent us $5 saying Avengers game failed because it was a looter shooter with bad mechanics and bad loot. It was going to fail even with great writing and the movie cast. Lauren, are you familiar with the Avengers game?
No, the only familiarity I have with it is I'm pretty sure I've seen the YouTube advertisements for it, but that's pretty much it. And I've seen every single movie in the MCU, but honestly, I don't know if I'm a big enough fan to actually want to play a game of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't look very inviting. And then after hearing all the controversy, I'm like, no, I don't need to mess with that.
Yeah, as for me, I just saw the wannabes that were playing the cast members. Like, where's the likeness of the actors that we know and love from the movies? That's not them. You have real life actors, but you use different ones. Okay, that's me out right there.
Yeah, you would think Disney would have nailed down their likenesses for sure, right?
You would have thought so, but that's like the most stupid mistake ever. And I think the game died just there, and everything else just compounded it. But speaking of compounding and Marvel,
yeah, one of the big points of contention.
Yeah, they ended everything just a little bit too well with Endgame, and they gave themselves something of a pickle, and now the future is, well, not fully, but mostly in streaming. We got a couple of series coming up, one of them being Miss Marvel, a character that is a fan favorite that absolutely everyone loves, at least according to Marvel's official press releases. Everyone loves her. That's why she was front and center of the game and everything. So yeah, and she's getting a series of her own, but there is some kind of controversy going around with that. Tom, would you like to just briefly take us through what's the controversy?
Oh, are you talking about the whole casting controversy, I guess? They've got a Trump supporter among the cast. They can't have that. And then they got a Christian playing, I believe, a Muslim. Is that the case? Yeah, they can't have that. You know, we can't have actors acting. You know,
I just want to say about it, I think it's what Matt Lintz is the one who they're saying is a Trump supporter. From what I understand, there's evidence he's a Trump supporter. I don't think they're even sure that he is, but they suspect it, which is apparently bad enough.
It is, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get into the actual story here. We're going to take this from Screen Rant. Fix Miss Marvel trends due to Miss Marvel's controversial casting rumors. Marvel is under fire for some of their rumored casting choices for Miss Marvel, resulting in Fix Miss Marvel trending online. One of the upcoming MCU projects on Disney Plus, the show will debut Iman Velina, if I'm saying that right, as the titular character Kamala Khan, but will while fans are excited for her portraying the part, I don't know who's excited, but it's not like that for some of her co-stars. Khan was only introduced in 2014, making her a relatively new character, but she quickly became a fan favorite, being the first Muslim American superhero to star in her own comic book series. Ms. Marvel was officially confirmed at D23 Expo by Kevin Feige himself, and the project is currently under production, blah, 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 blah. A dedicated fan page for Ms. Marvel on Twitter with the handle Ms. Marvel News collated some of the rumored casting choices for the project that are deemed problematic. That includes Andrew Broder, who supposedly has multiple gender discrimination charges against him. The account also cited Matt Lintz, rumored to play Bruno Carelli, being a Trump supporter. Finally, the hiring of Yasmin Fletcher and Zenobia Shroff being hired to play Muslim characters when they're not in real life. God, no! Given this potential casting news, Fix Miss Marvel started trending, asking Marvel Studios to reconsider these choices. And they've got a few choice clips from Miss Marvel News. In light of the recent controversies in casting choices, we at Miss Marvel News would like to say that we are not associated with Miss Marvel's streaming show, and we do not condone them. And yeah, and they go on. This is just ridiculous on top of everything else. Lauren, you brought this up to talk about, and of course this has just been blowing up the internet the last few days. Got to get your take on this first.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I want to say is that I'm not sure about you guys, but the only time I'm hearing about Miss Marvel is due to this apparent casting controversy. So like you said, I don't know who's excited about this. Maybe there's one Twitter stan account. I certainly am not, but I mean, I guess in regard to the like half white Christian girl, first off, I think it's really strange that we can't even have actors playing different religions now. Because this isn't a case of, oh, it's the wrong gender or the wrong race. Like, this is literally just a religion, like a belief that. So, I mean, we've really kind of forgotten what I think it means to act. So that's very strange. And the other thing is, I mean, I don't know, as someone who's also biracial, it just feels amazing when you hear other half white people being told they're not like Asian enough or whatever enough to qualify. So that it's just like a warm hug from the internet. Thank you, activist Twitter, for making all of us biracial people feel so welcome. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the actor that apparently has the Title IX things, I don't even know if there's reports about what those actually are, the gender discrimination things. Because I mean, Title IX, it can carry everything from just like, I think, blanket, like, oh, you use the wrong pronoun, all the way to actual rape. So I don't even know what to do to that. And then for the supposed Trump supporter, I mean, I try to, look past politics as much as possible when I judge entertainment. And it's just frustrating that there are these people out there who have taken the opposite approach where they, not only does the message itself need to be sufficiently woke, but even the people participating, they can't have the wrong opinions as actors.
Right. No, I think it's funny you bring up the latter part, not to get too deep into politics, but it does feel funny because I guarantee you if somebody were to come out and say, oh yeah, we're not going to hire so-and-so because, they're a Democrat. Yeah. Or they're a Biden supporter, the left would lose their fucking mind. Like they would be like calling like for all kinds of lawsuits and everything else. But it's like, but yet it's okay for you guys to turn around and cancel somebody because they don't agree with your,
maybe they don't agree. We're not even sure.
Exactly. That's a great point too. Yeah. We're not even 100% sure. Same thing with, Gina Carano, who keeps coming up in the news as well. She has never really specified what party she necessarily sides with, but people just assume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, I mean, Matthew McConaughey, he recently got into a similar thing because he appeared on Russell Brand, and he described himself as like centrist, had criticisms for both sides, and which I think is fine, and apparently that makes him, I guess, worthy of a blacklist just for not towing the line anymore. And it's just, I get that everything's political nowadays, but I really do miss just being able to watch a series or something and, not have it be just in your face the entire time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. As you said there, failure to toe the line. That's a high crime. That was the crime that Gina Carano committed. That she refused to bend the knee and to repeat their slogans, and she was put on a blacklist and a hate list instantly after that. And the way that things are right now, that's the frustrating thing, that you don't even have to actually be a Trump supporter, as in this case here. Just guilt by association, or guilty upon accusation, rather. Like, oh, we do not know that you are fully on board with us. We suspect that you might be for that nasty other side. Therefore, you're out. This is problematic.
Yeah.
And in terms of Miss Marvel, I think that there are far bigger problems to worry about in the showrunner herself. Lauren, do you remember this? When the showrunner for Miss Marvel, who think that her name is Bija K. Ali or something like that, the moment that she was announced, she had to, or before she was announced even, she went and she scrubbed her social media posts, removed like 5,000 tweets. And so they were deleted. There was no archive because no one knew who she was. She came out of nowhere, hadn't done anything of any kind of significance before suddenly being elevated to showrunner.
Yes, I do remember that. I had forgotten that this was for this show, though. But
that's for this show.
Yeah, going to your point exactly, Lauren. That like nobody really gives a crap about the show except for the controversies that come out of it.
Yeah. No, that's scary. And you're right. It's so strange. I don't understand how all these people keep getting jobs. Because even, we did a segment about the New Warriors a while ago. And it was some random like ex-BuzzFeed writer or something who had gotten this job, with this person as well. I think DC Comics has a new like goth, body positive comic book character they're launching. And none of these people who are in charge of these projects seem to have much notoriety. So I'm wondering, like, is this just really like is it an ideology test rather than a test of your actual like portfolio of work? Because I have no idea who these people are.
Absolutely, some element of ideological purity test. And it's funny that you mentioned this DC comic. You're referring to I Am Not Starfire,
Yes.
where you basically have a writer who self-inserted herself into the into the comic as Starfire's daughter, who is of course is stunning and brave and. Basically it checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
And by funny coincidence, that's exactly what Miss Marvel is as well, just slightly less extreme. Miss Marvel started out as the writer of Miss Marvel, self-inserting herself into the Marvel universe. Because basically, if you look at the writer behind Miss Marvel, the creator, and you look at Miss Marvel, there's very little reason for doubt about exactly where the inspiration came from. That was literally writing about themselves and placing themselves onto the page, which I think is pretty weak. Of course, any good writer should take elements of their own life and their own experience and bring that into their work. Like, that's what makes a good writer. But there's a difference between taking those life experiences and applying them to a different work versus writing fan fiction in which you insert yourself into a fictional world. And that's kind of like what these
self-serving fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, the whole Mary Sue problem. And I feel like with so many of the, who we're supposed to look at as these strong female characters now, whether it's like Captain Marvel, even Rey from Star Wars, they really do seem like self-inserts for the people who are involved. Because I mean, what's kind of frustrating with all of these characters as self-inserts is that it doesn't seem like many of these either writers or directors are very, I don't know, introspective of what their faults may be. So not only does it just come across as cheap and lazy, they're also very superficial because they don't have any flaws, because I don't think these people have like that level of self-reflection. I mean, I'm not familiar with Miss Marvel specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. It's just another example of a female character who can do no wrong, who has no faults, and like essentially her role in movie is just going from amazing to even better, but now she realizes that how amazing she is, and so that's where the growth comes in, which is not. not
In
interested.
terms of Captain Marvel, I would, or sorry, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel too for that matter, but especially Miss Marvel, I would love to be able to say that you are right, but I honestly don't know because I have never read Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and I have never met a single person that has read Miss Marvel or anyone that has any kind of like personal experience with the title. We are led to believe that is this super amazing things that the fans love, but the title keeps on getting cancelled over and over, and I've never personally met anyone that has ever picked up a copy of it. So it's like
Well,
very
I
interesting.
know in politics, there's astroturfing, right? And that's when like people at the top try to make something seem like a grassroots movement, but really it's all just top down. And I feel like lately a lot of the comic book industries or I guess companies have been trying to like astroturf popular characters. Like with the what is it? I get confused with New Mutants and New Warriors, but you know, where you had Snowflake and Save Space or whatever. And even with Miss Marvel, like this seems like a HR fueled attempt to appeal to like millennials and Gen Z without actually understanding that, okay, yeah, maybe this generation likes woke stuff more than average, but you still need to actually have a good story. Otherwise, it's just like propaganda.
Well, that's
And it's
exactly what it's coming off as is propaganda and pandering in the worst ways. Like you were saying earlier about, you know, just the self-insert parts of it, or not just that, but like, you know, to me, it's almost as insulting because they don't even really. The thing I keep hearing about is they don't even really specify the race of these characters unless they're a main character like this. All the other characters are referred to as brown characters. Like seriously, like there was an artist who told me they're like, oh, we need some more color in the background. What do you mean? We need more brown characters. Well, like what? Like just brown characters. And they're like, they won't give you a specific. It's just, to me, that comes off even more racist than anything. You know, it's just the same thing with like, oh, all Asian people are the same. You know, to me, that's just as bad of a statement because it's not true. It's just like, oh, just put some brown characters. Well, be more specific. Do you want some African American characters? Do you want some, Indian characters? What do you want? But they won't tell you. They just say put brown characters in there. So it's like, what is this? What is going on here with these people? Like, to me, it's
and sometimes, as we've seen with this actress, they'll say that it's not brown enough. We need a deeper brown.
or like or not black enough in Zoe Saldana's case or whatever.
Yeah. So I guess with this, do you think because there's this outrage over people who I'm guessing would be the core demographic that Miss Marvel is trying to go after, do you think they're going to back down from some of these casting rumors, or do you think they're going to go ahead? Because I know with, Naomi Scott with Disney, people were upset at first because she's also biracial and people were saying, well, she's not brown enough, but they kept her on. Do you think Marvel will keep on this half white Christian girl?
Well, it's funny you asked that, Lauren, because in the same article they do note that none of these casting choices have been confirmed. So yeah, there's a chance that even if there are things that Disney are thinking about, that is a good question whether or not this backlash will influence if they hire them or not, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, here's like the thing that I think that once they make a decision, they're going to stick with it. But before that decision is made, I think that they might try to pander to the audience that they're going with, which is a mistake, because that audience, the target audience for Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel for that matter, can never be satisfied. No matter what you do, there will be something to dislike. It will not be woke enough. It will not be diverse enough. It will not be what they call progressive enough. They will always find something to dislike, and they want nothing more than to go and cancel it on Twitter. But actually support it in any kind of way that matters, that's of course a very, very different matter. So I think that Disney are lucking out in the sense that this is going to be on Disney Plus, and only they will know viewership numbers. And even if it tanks completely, if no one is watching it, then all it means is that all the other shows are just going to have to make up for it, and you're basically going to have The Mandalorian season 3 or Boba Fett season 1 sell the platform for you, and they can kind of like hide the failure of Miss Marvel and other stuff like that under the rug. And I do believe it's going to fail in terms of actual viewership.
And I think it's interesting for me because even looking at something like, I guess, Star Trek Discovery, which I've not felt inclined to watch at all, but I have watched your videos about it. I'm surprised that they keep renewing it, frankly, from everything that I've seen about it. And I'm sure with Miss Marvel, I mean, I doubt there's going to be just one season, even if it's not successful, kind of what you were saying. I just don't understand why these studios, who you would assume would be profit driven, keep investing in projects like this. I mean, even with, after the whole Birds of Prey thing with Harley Quinn, I guess it's not officially, like, we don't really know what it's going to be about, but there's news now where there's going to be like this all or more female centric Pirates of the Caribbean thing, again, led by, Margot Robbie, who I actually don't mind as an actress, but it's like, how many times are you going to try to do the same thing, not make money and think, okay, well, maybe next time, maybe if we co-opt another franchise, then this is going to be the time.
Like this will be different somehow.
Yeah.
I do believe I read a definition about insanity going something like that.
No, but like Yellow Flash, how you doing? He's right. Like, and this is something we've been saying for a while. It's not about money. They'll lose as much money as they have to try and prove their point. That's the problem here. Is
to take it back to Star Trek Discovery for a second there. Here's like the thing that they've outsourced production to Alex Kurtzman, and Alex Kurtzman has been abundantly clear he doesn't care about Star Trek. It's not about telling good stories. It's all about platform first. And Netflix were stupid enough to buy it when they thought they were getting real Star Trek. And so they entered a deal in which they had to pay for so and so many seasons, essentially upfront. And failure to do so, well, that would give them a $200 million premature cancellation fees. They were kind of like locked in, meaning that Kurtzman, he was free to do what he wanted for a few years. Now, how much longer that's going to happen, that we don't know, because at some point, the goodwill and the money and the willingness to throw away money is going to go away. In terms of Disney, though, I think that what's going to happen there, because they're funding this thing themselves, if this thing isn't working, if it gets no viewers, then suddenly they're going to say that, this was just a miniseries. It was always meant to be a miniseries. And then we're simply not going to get the season 2 and 3. Yeah, exactly, like that. Yeah. Like Watchmen.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know how long they're going to keep on doing it. And Pirates of the Caribbean, female-centric Pirates of the Caribbean with Margot Robbie, which no one really minds. But then you have the same writer from Birds of Prey, so it's going to be all girl power all the time at the expense of men. And there was a rumor that they might even hire Amber Heard just to
really
make a statement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I can't imagine that losing theaters, which I guess we're also going to be talking about, is going to be good for the viability of these movies, because I don't know about everyone else, but sometimes I am guilty of having gone to see a movie just to see a movie, or because other people want to see it. And I do count things like Birds of Prey in this category. But with everything streaming online, I think there are going to be a lot of people who, if the possibility of watching it in the theater was there, they may have gone to pay for it. But with everything online, would rather perhaps sail the high seas, I think, as you put it, rather than pay for the streaming. And I think if you're, kind of constantly disrespecting a lot of audiences, they're going to be less and less inclined to actually give up that money to support you when, not that I'm condoning it, but just realistically speaking, there are ways around that financially.
Yeah, there are ways of surf sharking it. Oops, did I say that? So
yeah.
So yeah, no, it's absolutely a point. But that actually is the downside with streaming, since you have no way of like isolating how much money does each individual project to earn the platform. It's just a matter of the whole package and the ability of the package as a whole to retain and attract new subscribers. Then you can have the odd failure in there, and it'll kind of like be hidden away. So it's like a great way of hiding away the mistakes. So say that they have a god awful Miss Marvel show, which I do not doubt for a second that they're going to have, and that they have another god awful She-Hulk show, which I also do not doubt for a second that it's going to be, because if you look behind the scenes and who's writing and producing that, then yeah, the ideology are strong with those ones, let's just say. And I have very little hope for the entertainment value. But then you suddenly you have the Mandalorian, and then you have the Loki show, and maybe you're gonna get a revised Daredevil show. Maybe the Punisher will make a reappearance on Disney 18+. However, people may feel like unsubscribing because of the duds. There's just too much good stuff there. Well, that way they're actually hiding away the duds, so there will be less accountability. That's kind of like a concern. The beauty with the movies is that each individual thing is a mini election. Like Birds of Prey, as we've discussed before, that one flopped for the world to see, just like Terminator Dark Fate. And just like Charlie's Angels, that was like a trilogy of massively failed blockbusters, and they failed in a very public way. Those public lynchings, we're not going to get them the same way. That's a tad worrying, because that means that we might be getting much propaganda mixed in with the good stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what happened with Netflix for a long time. Remember, I guess like 2 years ago, when essentially Netflix was just like popping out original series or helping to like co-finance different things, and it all of it was like straight up propaganda essentially. And again, like, I don't care if something is essentially woke as long as it's a good story and well written, but this stuff was not. It just was not. An example is like that the new Sabrina series. I watched season 1 and I was like, all right, it's kind of weak and they're really preaching, but all right, I'll give it a chance. Couldn't last through season 2. But then this year they ended up canceling a bunch of shows. And there was this thing on social media. I saw that they were complaining and they were mad at Netflix because they were saying the canceled shows were disproportionately like by POC, trans, or whatever it was. Sabrina, I think, is on its last season now. Glow as well. I think Sense8. Like, there were a whole bunch of them. So I think you're right. There is that incentive to just say like, oh no, people love this show because no one else has your numbers. But I mean, I have to believe that these companies must care about money, like even just a little bit. I like, my mind is so, I can't wrap around how they just keep shoving money at these people who produce content essentially no one likes.
I think that they care the moment that the balance shifts, the moment that they see that, oh, okay, this is now starting to affect subscription numbers. We are now getting, or the growth of new subscribers is declining, or, oh crap, we're not now actually having negative growth. Time to do something. Time to make a few cancellations. But before then, as long as you keep that balance, it's incredible what they can get away with. Which is unfortunate, and that's one good thing about theaters. You wouldn't have that there, because there you have the high-profile failures, and they're actually good because they send a very strong signal of what the audience actually likes and does not want. Before, and I want to ask you, Lauren, about the theatrical experience and how much you'll be missing that. But we had a super chat on screen. Tom, can you put that back again? And we'll deal with that right away. We have some more, but
yeah, I was gonna say, we should probably get back to the other ones here too.
Fresher Luke says for $10, thank you so much. It's stuff like that keeps the light on here, and he says for that, if communism extracts wealth, is it fair to say the reason they keep subverting beloved franchises is just another long con to rob money from the studios without producing anything viable in return? Well, that's certainly true for Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
In some cases, yes, but a lot of cases it's just the hijacking of these things for to push their agenda. It really is propaganda. Lauren hit that right on the head there, and there's no better way to explain it. They're trying to force you to think in a specific way through your entertainment. That is exactly what propaganda is. So I don't know another way to put it. And that's why I don't think they give a shit about money, because they're trying to pretend it's a trend. But as we've brought up before, it's a forced trend. It's a created trend. It's not really a trend at all, because you can't create trends. It's all a forced thing. So it's not like the world has decided, oh, we're woke all of a sudden. No, it's a select few people have decided to force their group think onto the rest of the world is what it is.
Yeah, and I think what is it, like Andre was saying, it's kind of it's not even a good business plan in terms of growth or satisfying people, because the people who are into this, like you said, they're never going to be satisfied. And it just makes me think of, because it was almost a year ago that The Witcher first season was out. And I know a lot of people, myself included, were kind of worried about that, because that showrunner has her own woke history. I thought it ended up being okay. Like I liked it enough to watch season 2. It wasn't perfect, but then of course people were complaining about it, even though you could tell they made an effort to be inclusive in terms of casting, but then they were mad about too much nudity, which is not empowering enough, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, why would you even try to get in bed with these people who are going to do nothing but complain no matter how much you try to give them?
Well, I don't think that they were mad at the nudity. I think they were mad at the kind of nudity. There was too much female nudity and not enough Henry Cavill nudity.
Right.
Yes, and too much attractive female nudity. If it were like Lena Dunham naked on screen, then that's okay. That's empowering.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's very empowering. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who it's empowering to, but anyway.
Well, they keep on saying that
I
it is.
definitely feel better about myself naked when I see Lena Dunham.
Well, that's true.
That's kind of nice.
I don't, though.
I'm sure that Lena Dunham would appreciate hearing that her being naked on screen, that is very empowering to Lauren Chen.
It's funny because it's having the absolute opposite effect of what she's trying to accomplish. But anyhow, no, I think that's a good place to either jump into some of these super chats, or we can jump into the next section. Andre, that's
we can do a couple of super chats before we get into AT&T and the theatrical experience. Just gonna refresh here real quick so that we got everything, and we'll try to get up to speed before we continue. Mustafa Saad says for €2.29, it's insane, the intolerance of opinion. And Mr. Tickletrunk, you sent a little doggy super sticker, so thank you so much. And he also had 2 super chats after that, saying, the first one, imagine letting actors act. They pretend to be whatever the script requires. What if a trans person plays a non-trans person? Hypocrisy. Lame. Dumb. Yeah, there you go. And Mr. Sticklesrug also says, Tootsie was a great movie. Imagine making it now. Oh, no, you couldn't. That would be a hate crime, wouldn't it?
It's funny, I just bought that movie again. No, yeah, there's no way you could get away with Tootsie now.
Let alone Miss Doubtfire.
Well, which is funny, because Tootsie actually makes a lot of the points that they really pretend to stand for, you know what I mean? But, again, they wouldn't understand it. The same thing goes with the same people who decided that, Cool Runnings was too racist to be shown in a school. You've obviously never watched the movie, have you?
Or even Friends now. There was this recent article. This was probably, time is a vacuum for me. I don't know what day it is anymore, but there's this article about how millennials and Gen Z think Friends is offensive now.
Oh, of course.
And Friends is one of the only 2 shows that I watch constantly on repeat. But I mean, it was inclusive for the time. It had LGBT characters, but they still made jokes about it because it's a comedy. And so that in and of itself, it's offensive now. And it's like, oh goodness. When you start campaigning against Friends, I'm sorry, but you're clearly on the wrong side of history.
Indeed.
Well, not just that. I think you make a great point, Lauren, is a lot of times what got us into understanding and accepting of, a great example is being the gay community.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that came through entertainment in the late 80s into the 90s, where you had a lot more positive gay characters being brought in. Like you said, yeah, even though there was jokes, but that's how you deal with learning new things.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks knew that. That's why Blazing Saddles to me is a seminal film. Like, it's you can, a lot of the kids today would look at that and go, oh, it's racist. They've tried canceling it how many times now, but it's like, you don't understand what that's getting at. And the same thing I think with Friends is, yeah, they may be having some fun with it and there's some joking, but it's breaking that tension. And at the same time, you're learning and understanding something that's different, that's, you know, you may not normally have in your life.
Right. And I think what made Friends kind of inclusive but not woke is that those characters were treated like any other character. So you could make fun of them just like you would make fun of any other character, and there was more to their personality than just their sexuality, than just their race or whatever it may be. And I mean, I hate to give Joss Whedon any compliments, but I grew up watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the character of Willow and just her whole arc of coming out and like kind of finding a girlfriend who was her first like lesbian relationship. I even watch that now and it doesn't strike me as woke, just because you could tell that they're putting character first instead of just agenda.
Right. And that's something that, because I was on this other podcast where we go through our top 10 films of each year, and we started it with 1980 and kept going. And as we got into the late 80s and 90s, the ongoing joke was, oh, this movie doesn't exist because it either had a major gay character in it, or a lesbian character in it, or a black lead, or what have you, non-white lead. And it was like the joke started getting to the point where it wasn't even a joke. It's just like, this is just sick and sad that they're acting like these movies basically never existed, when all this time we've been so progressive and past all this. And that's where the resistance, I feel like, is coming in. It's like, no, first of all, it's fine to get me to tolerate something I don't normally have in my daily life, but now you're trying to make me conform. There's a difference there.
Yeah, and I kind of look at how my feelings toward like Black Panther versus Blade differ, even though both of them should, like, black superhero, oh, it's so cool, but it's like with Black Panther, I mean, not that it was a terrible movie, but I mean, I can definitely tell that there was that whole white colonizer line, and even outside of the movie itself, there was all of this like controversy surrounding it, and versus Blade, where it's like back then people just took it as a movie, and
exactly.
Wesley Snipes was amazing. That's still one of my favorite franchises. Even the third one, and it's just it's kind of disappointing, because I feel like now we've lost that almost like nostalgic naivete of inclusion that like the 90s and early 2000s had. It's all like so divisive now.
Great point. Yeah, because I don't remember anybody at the time going, oh, Spawn or Blade, finally we got black superheroes.
Yeah.
Not one person do I ever remember saying that. It was just Spawn and Blade.
Indeed. And before we move on, got a couple more super chats. White Slan says, awesome to see one of the best political streamers on the Best Culture channel. Oh, thank you. Best of the best. Yeah, we're so glad to have Lauren join us. That's always a pleasure when we're able to make that happen. And people evidently agree with that in the super chats as well. Says, hi, Miss Chen. Hi, gents. Enjoying this morning's episode. Yes, so say we all. Yes. And we also had Straight White Mage say, oh my God, Miss Chen on Midnight's Edge. Intelligence overload in 3, 2, 1. Lauren.
Yes, we're extremely happy to have you back here.
Yeah, actually, although last time I was on here, I got a little bit of a talking to from one of my friends, Chris. He said that he doesn't like it when I show up in his channels that he watches, because he watches. Oh no! He was like, but you have another fan in him, so
you should have been like, I smell peanut butter. I smell jelly. Do you need some peanut butter for that? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. No big deal. Just hanging out with one of your.
You're just jealous, yeah. No.
Oh yeah. Well, you'll have to send him a link to this. So.
Absolutely.
And also to move on. Gabriel Quiroga says, my 2 favorite channels joining forces. Love all you guys and gals. P.S. Andre, thanks for always getting my name right. give a shout out to Liam, Lauren.
Oh, will do. Thank you.
Yeah, Andre's one of the few YouTubers who can actually get most people's names. I butcher them endlessly. So.
Oh, same. Even we did an episode about the whole Matthew McConaughey thing, and honestly, if I didn't know phonetically that it was McConaughey, I was trying to type out the title to Liam, our producer, and it was just like, I don't know. I don't know.
I know how it is. Trust me. I'm always misspelling stuff too.
Well, I get most names right, but it comes at the cost of being stuck with an accent. So yeah, you can't have everything.
Yeah, but see, it makes it sound more official and cool.
Mm-hmm. And if you ever do get something wrong, you can just say, "Oh well, in my mother tongue,
Exactly.
this is how it would be pronounced."
Yeah. I got some flack for saying Denis Villeneuve wrong the first time. I said it like in a Spanish way rather than a French way. We had lots of fun with that in the second video. Yeah. And Lorena Creole, who of course is regular on Toxic Femininity and her own channel, so everyone go check that out. Says, so awesome to see Lauren Chen on the panel. Indeed it is. We have a couple of more super chats to go through. And we'll deal with the one that's on screen right now. Thunderstorm says, this is literally George Orwell 1984 thought police and newspeak. Communist mission is to create the new man. We might need our own entertainment away from the communists. I think that you might starting to be getting that. I think that more and more are going to start creating their own independent productions. I mean, Mr. H, our good friend from Mr. H Reviews, he has just completed his second short. I haven't seen one of them. So I'm excited to see the other one. We have Gary J. Tunnicliffe, who is about to announce his next project. That's also going to be a very entertaining other things. So yeah, I think that Comicsgate will be coming to movies.
Critical Drinker, he's also an author, which is really cool.
Yeah, he just released his
real
book
name, but yeah, so that's I love that, and I think there are a lot of creative people out there who aren't woke and who just want to tell a good story. So I think it's important to support them.
Indeed, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. But now let's move on to HBO Max. That have basically they've done their own Pearl Harbor is the comparison that I made in terms of like what is going on right now with the movie going landscape. It is also in the process of being reset, and HBO Max aren't doing theaters any kind of favors at all, depending on how things play out. No one really knows exactly how things are going to play out in the next months and years ahead. It's going to depend on several things. But the movie-going experience, where that is a cultural thing, where you go to a premiere Friday night with your friends, with your family, where it's a joint thing that you can talk with your colleagues around the water cooler. That's certainly not happening since everyone is going to lose their jobs. But yeah, that may soon be a thing of the past. It may all be streaming and long-form content and the odd movie here and there. That's very, very likely that that's the future we're going into. Lauren, how do you feel about that?
It makes me really sad, honestly. I mean, I have friends and family who are kind of disillusioned with movies just kind of going down in quality, so they haven't been keen to go to the theaters for a while. But for me, there is that nostalgic experience of actually going, sitting in a theater, and I still think it is, I mean, depending on the movie, it's not as big of a deal for maybe a comedy, but for something like an action movie, I still think it's one of the best ways to watch a film, especially for the first time. And what's kind of sad is that, I mean, we've had some enormous box office hits over the past couple of years, but it seems like now the entire industry, like all the exhibitors are being crippled. I mean, artificially, it's not like people don't want to go see movies anymore, even though they've been struggling for a while. It's like they're really essentially being told in a lot of countries and places, no, you cannot open. And I mean, like, my heart doesn't really bleed for Hollywood too much, but for a lot of those theaters, it's hard, especially with, HBO Max, this deal. I mean, I know they're trying to make it seem like, oh, well, we're also releasing simultaneously in theaters. So, but I mean, realistically, this is really, really going to hurt the theaters that were banking on Wonder Woman, if they are open, kind of bringing people in. Because especially now with other lockdown restrictions, I mean, it may not even be possible to go out where you are. So many people are just going to be watching it online. And I think, I mean, it's going to be bad for the studio too, because I guess we don't know the deal exactly, but I can't imagine that they would be able to recoup the amount of money they would have made from a regular theatrical release.
Right. Well, as we've been saying here, they don't care.
Yeah.
This is all about HBO Max, and that's what all these other guys are starting to learn. That's what this article here is kind of about. And the one thing I was trying to share here like 5 times and messed up, but I think I finally got it. About exactly a day before this article dropped, this tweet dropped from Culture Crave saying that reps for Will Smith, Keanu Reeves, Margot Robbie, Denzel Washington, and more are mad HBO Max didn't treat them the same way as Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot was told in advance about Wonder Woman 84 moving to HBO Max and received over $10 million for it. Some people are calling the studio Former Brothers. So, and then this even gets wilder because you had Christopher Nolan and a bunch of other people speak out on this. And I think a lot of people are just starting to realize that basically HBO Max is doing, or Warner Brothers is doing this all for HBO Max. It's not about the pandemic at all. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this goes into what I was saying as well, Andre, where I was talking about, I'm not so sure that they've got everything in order for this. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of actors and directors and guilds and everything mad on top of the theaters, and the theaters have already shot back as well. But as you pointed out in the intro, like, it's more of like a please don't do this kind of thing now than anything, than them kind of playing the big badass. But yeah,
there's one thing that I would like to point out here that's very obvious to me, at least, because as we said, Warner and AT&T, really, they don't care. They are willing to take the theatrical loss to boost HBO Max. And the reason for that is simple. If they're able to make HBO Max a must-have service, just like Netflix, then that's $20 billion a year in subscription revenue for them. That's their end game right there. And with that kind of revenue, they can write off all of the money that they've lost on Dune and everything else. They can write off their debt in a couple of years, and it'll be smooth sailing from there on out. But that's because they have a streaming service that actually can compete in the top tier. Not everyone is so lucky. And I'm very glad that you brought up the reactions from the agents and the guild and everything like that, because right now they are the ones that are freaking out. They are the ones that are upset. They are the ones that are really visually trashing Warner and AT&T, because you had like this hit piece in the Hollywood Reporter that we just had on screen, and that's what it is. That's a pure hit piece from the industry, aimed at HBO and or HBO Max and Warner and AT&T in particular. And there was a couple of quotes there. I'm going to give a teaser to my next editorial right now, but there was one quote in particular that I thought was revealing, because it shows the mindset of the incumbents, of the establishment in Hollywood, that I think knew of the streaming thing to come, but I don't think that they were fully prepared for the full extent it was going to take and how it would affect them. A quote from this article reads, I'm just going to find it right here. Because they said that one prominent agent notes that the top executives at Warner Media and its parent, AT&T CEO John Stankey, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, and of course Sarnoff, quote, don't understand the movie business, and they don't understand talent relations. And then later they bemoan that in a year since Sarnov was hired, he hasn't done enough to make an impression with the agents. To me, this is the swamp of the movie business, being annoyed that here come these newcomers that come into their turf, to the business that they own and they rule. And suddenly, because of changes that they didn't fully predict, they're no longer the top dogs, and they might be out-competed from someone outside. And now the swamp is fighting back again, and that is what this article is right here.
Right.
So I think we're going to have a very interesting power conflict in Hollywood going forward.
Yeah. Now I got to ask you, Andre, and of course I want to hear what you have to say about this too, Lauren. Now, do you think this has more to do with, like I said the other day, about like AT&T is probably doing a lot of things that they can do and get away with, and using loopholes and other things, and that's probably what's pissing them off more than anything. And they didn't figure out to the last minute that this is what they were up to, and they probably really don't have a lot of legal recourse. But what they can do is what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that that's the reason why they're doing the limited theatrical releases day and date, because they know that's something that they can't get away from doing. They're going to have a contract with their co-financiers and their co-production companies that states that this movie must be in theaters, and for instance, Legendary gets to decide the release date, which is the case for Dune. But the nature of the release beyond that, how many screens and how much money to spend on advertising and stuff like that, that is something that Warner, as a distributor, is fully in control of. So I actually think that they actually are well within their rights in everything that they're doing. They're going through lawsuits and everything like that. I don't know how much that is going to help, because probably AT&T's lawyers have gone through all of this, and they know that what they're doing, they legally can do. It's just that the industry didn't see it coming.
Right.
And now they're freaking out.
Yeah, and the reason I think that's the case is the line you just said was, you know, they don't know anything about actor relations. It's not saying that they're doing something illegal. It's just saying that you're pissing people off. You know what I mean? Like, that's really all to me I'm getting out of this, is like, nobody really has any grounds to do anything, but they're like, you meanies, and they're shaking their fists.
Right. And I think, like Andre was saying, I'm sure they must have the legal right to do this, and tons of lawyers looking over contracts if they're going ahead with it, or at least the money to fight any lawsuits. But I think what we need to think about is how this is going to affect entertainment in the future, right? Because for actors, for directors and everything, I mean, it's just the case. It might change in the future, but a theatrical release is not the same thing as being released to streaming. And I think probably directors and actors and talent, they're going to be a lot more strict on what they sign going into things if they know that this is a possibility, that something like Warner Brothers can just turn around and put you straight on streaming. And I'm someone who has, I had HBO Max for like a week so I could do an episode on Chelsea Handler's special and watch Raised by Wolves, canceled that. And then, Netflix, Hulu, what else? There's, Prime Video, Disney Plus, I canceled. But I think there is going to be a point where the market is just saturated with streaming services. I mean, we also have CBS All Access. I mean, the amount of disposable income the average person has is limited. And I've seen people joke about this, like these streaming services are going to need to figure something out, because we can't just pay for 20 different ones.
No, you're right. And I think Amazon has kind of got the market cornered on that, because what they've been doing is collecting all these and making them available on their service. So it's just an add-on. And when you're not seeing it as separate charges on your account, I don't think people pay as much attention, because that's kind of what CBS All Access got a big boost for being brought onto the Amazon thing. And I have a feeling that's what a lot of these are going to do, is find a way to do that. But again, you got a situation like your point is, really sound, because, HBO Max is one of the more expensive ones. That's $15 a month. And that's what I was pointing out to a lot of people who are like, oh, how are they going to make any money on these things? I was like, well, you look at it this way. How many people actually buy even one DVD or Blu-ray a month? Not many. But if you signed up for HBO Max, that's basically the same amount you'd spend on a Blu-ray or DVD every month. So they're basically guaranteeing themselves a sale on whatever big movie it is that they're dropping that month. you can almost look at that as the equal to like X amount of Blu-ray sales every month. Because even though you're watching all the older stuff, that stuff's all paid for already. The stuff they're trying to pay for is Wonder Woman, Kong, and all that stuff. But it doesn't really matter because they don't care right now. This is all lost leaders for AT&T because even though they're in debt with Warner Brothers, they're still the only studio out there right now who have somebody behind them who has a constant, steady flow of income because AT&T is a communications company. They're not like Disney where their parks are closed, you know. Like, that's the only other revenue that Disney had. And then all the other studios are just fucked right now.
Do you think going forward that, so we've heard that I think HBO Max is going to make Wonder Woman just available to, I guess, the paying subscribers already. Amazon Prime, they have the thing where if it's new, it's an additional fee to rent or buy. And we saw Disney try that with Mulan. Do you think that if, you know, there is this huge shift away from theaters, that it's going to be more of the case where you have to pay extra again for the video, or sorry, for the movie? Or do you think it's just going to be an all-inclusive thing? Because I think with Trolls, which was one of the more successful ones, it was an additional video on demand fee, right?
Yeah, actually, and it's funny you brought that up because I said that way early on in this whole thing, that if theaters were to die, that's what studios would try and do, is like a pay-per-view kind of thing. Like, even though, yeah, you have HBO Max, but to be able to watch Dune, you got to pay an extra 15, 20, 30 bucks, like with Mulan. And I was surprised that Disney tried that already up front. I was expecting that something down the line because I kept telling people, don't be surprised if the next Avenger movie is 60 bucks. You know, like, and they're like, oh, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. Like,
yeah, I mean, they do it already for like, oh gosh, what's that, UFC fights?
Exactly,
and things like
yeah.
that. I think, yeah, that's not out of the question.
Right. And exactly. I mean, even back when video first came out, people forget that the average cost of a video, unless it was a sell-through movie, was like 80 to 100 bucks easy to buy. I mean, it just was the norm. So like, we're going to see that kind of a thing only with pay-per-view. And so like, yeah, I can watch Wonder Woman now for 60 bucks, but if I wait a few months, then I can see it for 30, or wait till it comes on HBO Max in about a year. You know, that's probably going to be the future.
Probably. I also think that there's going to be like different tiers going on there.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because I think that much is going to also depend on the experiment with Soul that they're releasing for free with no extra charge. What kind of a boost is that going to give them? Is the boost in additional subscribers being to be more than what existing subscribers would have to pay extra just to see that one movie? I think that also is going to factor into it. So, yeah.
I think Soul is a sacrifice because it wasn't going to make any money anyway. The real testament is going to be when and if they drop Black Widow. That's going to be the one to really test, I believe, the waters with Disney. To be honest with you, because I don't think Soul has enough reach. Like, even Mulan was a better choice to try and drive some kind of, you know, because nobody knows what Soul is.
Well, people know that what Mulan is, and that's actually bad, because everyone
knows
what kind of a horrendous thing that is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is more people...
Straight to streaming?
What was that, Lauren? I didn't hear first.
Did Disney announce that Black Widow would be going to Disney Plus?
Not yet.
Not yet, but it's almost like we're expecting it any minute.
Yeah,
literally.
It's not a foreground, because what they've said up to this point is that they remain committed to the theatrical experience, and they're committed to putting Black Widow into theaters, meaning they haven't said anything that they can't go back on at a moment's notice. And they have like this press conference tomorrow where they're going to go through much of their future content. I expect some very cool announcements there, from Daredevil to multiple Spider-Man, and release date on Disney Plus, or Disney 18 Plus even, for Black Widow. That is what I would be expecting there. So I would honestly be surprised if there is any kind of theatrical window for Black Widow at this point. I think that's also going to be day and date theatrical on Disney Plus or Disney 18 Plus.
I think Disney's going to pull a similar move to what HBO did. Because, I mean, we've been hearing the rumor for weeks about this Disney 18 Plus, and now I've been hearing it may even be Hulu that they flip over to this. But otherwise, we just figured it was going to be an add-on to Disney Plus. But yeah, that's basically the idea of what it would be, is all their adult-oriented shows and Fox movies and stuff like that would go to this other It would be it'd be like an add-on. It wouldn't be a whole new service, basically.
Well, it would make perfect sense if they repurpose Hulu to that end, like buy out anyone else that has something to it, get rid of that one thing that confuses the brand, and you have Disney and Disney 18 plus. It's like perfect. Would really consolidate their brand. So I think that makes sense, but we shall see. We shall see what they do.
But getting into the theatrical aspect, because I know that was something that you wanted to talk about, Lauren, is you said, yourself, you're going to miss the theatrical experience. I'm somebody, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I miss going to the theater. Yeah. I miss being able to go out and see a movie on the big screen and the smell of popcorn and all that business. I think there is a amount of the country that will feel that way. How do you think this is going to affect things going forward?
Well, I mean, I think we've already seen theaters shutting down. And I mean, we did have a lot of box office hits over the past couple of years, but we've also seen movie theaters try to diversify their income stream instead of looking at single ticket prices. Theaters have been playing around with movie passes. We also saw Cinemia kind of like go bankrupt, at least in North America, which is sad. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think in the future, frankly, movie theaters aren't going to be as widespread as they are right now. I think they're still going to exist, perhaps, but it might be like a specialty thing, like going to a play instead of something that you would do conceivably maybe even every other week or as often as every week if you're like really into the movies, like a lot of my family is, which is disappointing. And, even compared to places like China or India, North Americans already were kind of losing that movie theater culture. Right there. I mean, it's not uncommon in other parts of the world to go see movies like maybe twice a week, where it's very uncommon here. And I think it kind of goes to speak to the rising cost of real estate as well. It's expensive to own a movie theater. And that's just all too bad. So it's definitely going to change even the things that are produced, because like you were saying, we're going to see probably a pivot away from big budget shorter movies to things like lower budget, long form content, where it makes sense for people to have that ongoing subscription because you want to wait and see like the entire catalog of episodes that comes out. And what I find interesting is trying to compare shows and platforms that choose to release all at once versus on a weekly basis.
Right. So, Andre, I know, like, over there, I don't know how it is, but I mean, like Lauren was saying, she's not wrong. The theatrical experience here has become a less and less thing. Like, and I think part of it is just the forms of entertainment we have. The movies have been becoming crappier and crappier. As things we've talked about, like the squeeze the studios have over the theatrical releases has been making it more difficult for theaters to make a profit, and they have been dying a slow death, but I think it was it Gary who said it basically this way? They just decided to hell with it, and they took away their food source. They just decided we're going to starve them out right now. This is it. They used the opportunity of this time to not only boost HBO Max but cut the throats of the theaters at the exact same moment.
And this has actually been happening since before the pandemic. Even like the amount of time that the exhibitors had exclusive access to films has gotten shorter and shorter. If you notice, movies come out so much sooner now on DVD and streaming
absolutely,
than they used to.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I also think the same thing, that this was already moving ahead. There was a trend towards going direct to consumer. But with this situation, the studios, or at least the studios that have a streaming service, the ones that not just any streaming service, but a streaming service that has the chance to be a top dog, they decided this is the time. Let's just kill off the middleman and go direct to consumer, because that benefits us more. Because think about it from a studio's perspective. Like, imagine if you're Disney. Disney is a company that has a couple of $1 billion grossing movies every single year. But you know what? They're going to earn a whole lot more having a regular streaming service that pulls in $20 billion a year or thereabouts, than a couple of movies that bring in $1 billion, $1.5 billion that they have to share revenue with the exhibitors. So it's just more profitable for them. The upside is higher by killing off the middleman, removing all the expensive layers in between, and going direct to consumer. And that, of course, is why the agents and the various guilds are in an uproar right now, because all of the things that the studios would then cut out are all of the things where they are able to cash in. So you'll be bleeding out the agents and the guilds as well. Of course, not completely, but many of their revenue sources they would simply strangle, choke down, or end altogether, because this would also mean that you can no longer scale any movie for an expected $1 billion at the box office. It all has to be financially scaled to be part of an overall streaming offering, meaning that 10, 15, $20 million paychecks are out. That directly affects the bottom line of the agencies, because they live off percentages of what their clients earn.
Yeah, and Yvonne Solomon says exactly what I've been trying to say for the last few weeks, and even trying to pound into Andre's head too. The beer bug didn't force them to put their movies on HBO Max. That was just an excuse. And that's exactly what the industry's figuring out. They're a little slow to the table, but this is what I've been trying to say, and that's exactly what it is. This is nothing, very, very little or less to do with the pandemic than it has everything to do with boosting HBO Max, and killing the theaters is just a happy side effect, basically.
Yeah, it's one that they will not shed any tears over, because they're going to get so much more money if they're successful.
Yeah.
Of course, Paramount, Lionsgate,
Sony,
MGM, Weinstein. Well, they're done now, but basically every
Sony,
other Sony. All of these that do not have what it takes to be a major contender in the streaming wars, they of course are going to cry, because they're going to lose their theatrical distribution, and they're going to have to rely on deals with one of the other companies that actually do have these major streamers. They're going to have to go into business with Netflix, or with Disney, or with Warner, or with Amazon, and they're just going to get a penny back compared to what they would get on theatrical distribution. So it's going to suck for them immensely, and they are the ones that are going to struggle from this.
Basically, yep. And that's where we've come to now, and I think that's going to be interesting going forward, because like the other thing going on the other side of things is the whole, we were talking about Disney working on their big announcements coming up, and one portion of those is the whole Spider-Man deal. And that movie's going to cost quite a bit of money, Andre. And Sony is a big part of that, obviously. So do you feel like that movie's probably the bill's being footed more by Disney, or Disney's like, don't worry, we'll take care of it kind of thing right now? Or how do you feel like that's going forward? Because I can't remember, isn't the deal going forward that the Spider-Man movies now will be going, at least the newest ones will go to Disney Plus?
I don't recall exactly the distribution thing, because at least for the current deal, the next movie, Spider-Man 3, is going to be like a co-production. And
That's
what
what I
they
mean,
do
yeah.
after that, I don't know. But I would not be surprised if Disney now have gone to Sony and said, like, don't worry, we'll put it here, we got you covered. I wouldn't be worried if they do that for like this movie. Beyond that, I don't know. But Lauren, I'm curious, how excited are you for all the Spider-Man coming back across multiple movies?
I mean, I guess I'm excited, but to be honest, I've been kind of superheroed out for quite a while. I'm not saying I'm not going to watch it, because of course I am going to watch it. But even with Black Widow, a lot of people I know were like, oh, heck yeah, finally Black Widow movie. And I was sort of like, I don't know. I want something new. I feel like Marvel kind of, for a long time, they were like releasing like 2 movies a year. I kind of got burnt out personally.
No, you're not alone. I feel a lot of people
on top of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel the same way you do, that it is kind of a burnout at this point. And again, I kind of said the same thing last night. I'm more excited for seeing these actors come back than I am seeing a buttload of Spider-Man on screen.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm more excited for like Dune than anything to come out of Marvel, frankly, right now.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Dune was my most anticipated movie of 2020, now of 2021. It's going to be a shame. Well, if it's possible, I'm going to go see that on the big screen in addition to in my own living room. But yeah, it's a shame. It's going to be. We're not going to get, no matter what happens, we're not going to get Dune Part 2 or Part 3 as the big budget blockbusters that they were going to be. That's definitely not happening.
Unless it is a major driving force in HBO Max. Like we have to put that.
But that's what I mean.
There.
That's what I mean. That we're probably going to get scaled down versions for HBO Max. That's probably not going to be directed by Denis Villeneuve. I think that, Villeneuve. I think that they're absolutely going to want to make follow-up to it, but I don't know that it's going to be the same follow-ups that we would have gotten in theaters in the parallel timeline where the coup never happened.
It could be that way, but then again, if this is a bigger thing for HBO Max than we're anticipating, it could be the opposite. We could get exactly what was planned because, like I said, there's that pent up kind of feeling. I feel like there's something about this Dune, especially now if it's going to be on HBO Max, that there's going to be a lot more people who will take a chance on it than they would have in theaters.
But then I guess they might be figuring, return on investment, even if they really do want to make it. If these people have already seen the first one or already subscribed, is it worth putting the extra investment into making it this huge big budget production if the increase in subscriptions is only going to be marginal? They're probably going to go over looks and look at that.
Oh, of course. And they'll have a better look at numbers this way too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is they'll know exactly how many people are watching. They'll have a good idea of how it affected their subscriber growth. And I think that'll factor in how things are going forward. And that's where, I've gotten over the last 2-3 days, a lot of people asking about how they're going to make money, exactly like that. They know exactly how many people are watching something. They know how much they make a month. They'll know how much it's worth. If this becomes their Game of Thrones, they'll go with it. That's what I'm trying to say, Andre. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree completely. But here's the thing. Let's I don't know the detailed budget of this movie.
Right.
Say that it was 200 million, and then it comes out on HBO Max, and they say, "Oh yeah, whoa, this was a huge hit. We got so many views. We got so many subscribers from it." They go to the producers and say, "You know what? Let's continue this. Let's do Dune 2. Let's do Dune 3. How much money do you need for Dune 2? Oh yeah, we had planned on like $1 billion grosses and everything. So we're gonna need 250 million to make the next one. Okay, here's a check for 60. Make Dune." That's kind of like what I'm expecting is going to happen. So I think that it's going to happen. I absolutely think there's going to be a Dune 2. It's going to be a Dune 3. It's going to be a Dune series after that. It's going to go on HBO Max. I do believe all that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be the same $200 million movies that Denis Villeneuve would have made. I think it's going to be scaled down versions.
In the chat have been mentioning, sailing the high seas and stuff, and they think that if all of these streaming services want to try to compete with each other, they just can't afford to have them all. Which is, I am curious to know that if that is going to be enough of a problem to cause a big chunk of money to be lost to these streaming services, especially because once something is on there, is online, it's essentially everywhere. And I think if they do want to start charging, especially pay-per-view prices for films, to maybe try to justify that bigger cost, I think you're also going to see an increase in piracy.
Oh, absolutely, that's a factor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the thing is the bigger studios, they pay attention. They all pay attention to this stuff. The ones who are going to be hurt are the little guys, and those are the ones who are going to make the bigger fuss. And I do think you're right. But Andre, what I was going to get to as far as the cost factor is, we're going to see a change across the board, across everything, right? So what'll happen is they're going to start treating a lot of these movies like television series. I think Sanders right here. Whatever they do for the second film, if they don't already have a lot of the stuff saved for the first film, they will save and continue to just film it like a series. They will amortize the cost across the board. So that will possibly allow, the talent to stay involved. But I do get what you're saying. And it's also not against the norm for a big studio like that. Well, once something's a hit, to get rid of the expensive talent and bring in lesser quality talent that's cheaper. That's nothing new. So again, I'm not saying you're wrong, but it'll all depend on how much of a driving force Dune is for HBO Max right now.
Yeah. But I think that they're cost efficient enough that they're going to figure that, you know what, we're going to get exactly the same amount of subscribers on Dune 2 if it costs 200 million and if it costs 60 million. The audience just won't know the difference because we're not going to tell them the true budget.
That's true too.
I mean, this often happens. I mean, I've heard stories of movies that were marketed as having cost $60 million to make. In reality, they cost 36 million.
Right.
And 30 of those were cast salaries, meaning that in terms of production value, what was billed as a $60 million movie was in reality a $6 million
Well, and
movie.
we brought that up a million times, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to get here again. We're going to have like rumors that the Dune sequel is going to cost 150 million. That's going to be 60 in reality. That's kind of like what
basically
I'm thinking.
What you're going to look at for Dune 2 and 3, if those are possibilities, those are going to be more so, are they going to retain customers? Because once you get the customers, it's going to be about retaining the customers. Exactly. So hopefully the value will come in there and they'll see the value. And AT&T is one of those, hey, they brought back Snyder for the Snyder Cut. So, you know, who knows? I mean, but then again, now they're not making any friends with what they did.
That's their Mandalorian. That's different.
I get that. But I know they're looking for their Game of Thrones. That's the thing, and that was what I was told this is all about. And you know what I mean, is they didn't have those 5 Game of Thrones series to sell HBO Max with.
Nope.
Well, actually, speaking of Game of Thrones, I did hear that the casting is underway or was completed for the House of the Dragon, the spinoff series. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and that's what my guy said. He's like, they're pissed because they're not even going to have that until at least 2022 if they're lucky.
Yeah.
So they were anticipating 4 or 5 Game of Thrones series to sell HBO Max with.
Yeah, but I mean, they kind of had no one to blame but themselves. For what was that? The other one, the first one that they had actually filmed the pilot was so terrible. Apparently, didn't even get picked up. Like, well,
with S.J. Clarkson, one of the would-be Star Trek 4 directors. When they try to use woke as a selling point to attract investors, it didn't work. And Lauren, are you even excited for like that House of Dragon or whatever it's called?
Well, that's what someone in the chat is asking. Like, why would you be looking for the next Game of Thrones? Okay, I am still interested in the Game of Thrones universe. I just don't want David and Dan to have anything to do with it. So I think, I think George R. R. Martin is going to be involved, I think it could potentially be good. And I like fantasy series a lot. And I like that's kind of being burnt out on superheroes. Like I was really into The Witcher and I was looking forward to the second season, which I guess is, delayed now. So that's been more my niche lately. So I will watch it. I just hope it's not as disappointing as Game of Thrones was.
Yeah.
It has some very good showrunners, so I think that that it has every chance of being good. My question is, how many cares? I just know for myself that I never read the books, so I was only a casual fan.
Yeah,
but the end, the 2 last seasons, not just the last season, but the last 2 seasons, they were so bad that I actually resold my 4K Blu-ray disc of season 1 because I decided I have no interest in ever rewatching this, knowing how it ends.
I've stopped recommending it to people after that. But I mean, again, like with that whole thing, I blame HBO, right? They should have just told the showrunners, if you want to do something else, that's fine. But we're going to leave the show with someone who actually wants to finish it. Like, I mean, I guess there must have been contractual reasons why they couldn't have done that, but just terrible. And I'm glad that
they could have, but you know why they didn't? It was simply a matter of these showrunners, they have done so amazing. They have done so amazing for us. Game of Thrones is such a phenomenon, and this was around like season 6, when these cracks were starting to show, but from the general public point of view, it was going from strength to strength. This was when Dan and Dave decided that 20 episodes from now, it ends. And then they started building towards that. And at that point, HBO basically had to either decide that, okay, we're either going to replace these guys that have given us all of this massive success so far and hope that someone else can do as good as them, or we can do what they recommend and say that we should do. End in 20 or however many episodes, and then we have 5 spin-off series to continue. And it's going to be this amazing ending that's going to go down in TV history. Everyone is going to love it. Everyone, they're going to be so excited for the prequel series, for these 5 spin-offs. They're going to be massive, going to be so huge. That was their thinking. And honestly, at this point, when the decision was made, which was after season 6, you honestly can't blame HBO for making that decision.
Well, I remember I was even back then very disappointed with the shorter episode, just like the shorter seasons. Sorry. Because I remember even George R. R. Martin at the time said that if it were up to him, it would be 10 seasons, 10 full episodes per season. And I was like, heck yeah, like that makes a heck of a lot more sense. So I have kind of this grudge against HBO now for letting them do that to a series that I think for a lot of people was one of the best that they had seen, like kind of in the modern generation. Very disappointing. But yeah, I mean, I hope that the spin-off is, I don't know, at least watchable. I'll be sad if it's not.
Right.
Yeah. Considering what the 2 showrunners alternatively would have given us, because but they were working on the Conan series for Amazon, and that we didn't get that's a crying shame. And the movie TV watching landscape will never recover. We just don't know what we missed. So I hope that they're able to bring the magic that they would have brought to Conan to Game of Thrones. And if they're able to do that, then that's going to be good. I only hope that people will be interested, and that's my question, no matter how good it may be.
That's true, because I mean, as popular as it was, I feel like once Game of Thrones ended, no one was still really talking about it anymore. And even, I mean, like I usually try to go to Comic-Con every year, and the year before, people had already, I think, kind of like mentally checked out. There was already a lot of criticism. You really see as many like Daenerys's and like Jon Snow's as you used to, and now it's almost like not really culturally relevant anymore.
No, I think you're right. And I think HBO noticed that. That's one of the few times where they weren't able to go, oh, it's just the racist istophobes that aren't liking something, because you actually had pushback from the main media and a lot of people in their own circle going, what the fuck did you do to our show? You know, like, so, and that was like another thing I kept hearing back, was that they were so pissed at D&D and how it was all handled, and they're mad at Martin that they haven't got the spinoffs and all this business. And like, yeah, they saw how bad they snafu'd this whole ending of the show. And it was, you had basically, like Andre was saying, you had the biggest thing in history. You just had to give us an awesome ending. And how do you fuck something like that up? Well,
they found a way. They found a way. That's all we can say.
I mean, how hard is it? You got something that's just basically dragons and floppy wieners and boobs and incest and murder. I mean, how hard is it to make a really cool, fucked up ending?
Yeah, and I remember I'm a spoiler person. I know it's a vice of mine, but I remember there was kind of like, there ended up on Reddit being spoilers leaked that weren't 100% but were pretty accurate. And I remember when I first read them, I was like, this is this isn't even believable. Like, it's so outrageous and stupid. It would never happen. I dismissed it. And then as the finale was actually playing out, I was like, oh no, this is like, it was right. It's accurate. No. Oh, wow. That was a kick in the pants.
I like this here. My mom bought me GOT socks and shirts, and I'm too embarrassed to wear them. Oh man, that's sad. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I think Andre cut out there.
Yeah, indeed. It was
There he
a
is.
crying shame what happened there. But yeah, we have a couple of super chats to go through before we resume. So I'm just going to get caught up on those real quick. Just wanted to again say thanks for everyone for joining and in the chat and everything. We're not done yet. Just going to catch up, and we do try to pay attention to the chat, but they fly by so quickly. So yeah, some are eventually going to go through. Dekari Garmon says, remember when character development was important? While the Fessman 93, I like this one, for £5 says, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. A quote from the Joker. And Jaybird the Third says, I miss the good old days when studios were motivated primarily by money. It was so simple and honest. Now it's all sneaky subversion and propaganda. Yeah, that's actually a good point. You have to really appreciate those that are upfront about, we're in this for the money. And on that note, Fresher Luke, this one, we already said this one.
Did you get that one? Okay.
Yeah, we got that one. And Silver Nova said for $10 hey Lauren, Tom and Andre, keep fighting the good fight. As you said a recent Midnight Sedge in the Morning, this trend isn't happening organically. It's manufactured, indeed. And then we have a supple we had gone through already. Said, hi Miss Chen, hi gents, enjoying this morning's episode.
Glad to hear.
And Mr. Tickle Trunk says, this is more for you than for me, because he wants me to say, happy to comply. And Taker 610 says, non-white roles need to be chosen very carefully so they are the exact race/religion, but white characters can be played by anyone, preferably non-white. Yeah, this is true. Remember,
what bothers me there is the double standard, right? Because if we're just going to say race shouldn't matter at all, that's one thing, and yeah, whatever. But when we start to obsess over like race for one direction and try to change like white characters into non-white actors, but then complain when it's reversed, it's like that's when it gets frustrating.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah, double standards rule is all I can say, and that's the order of the day, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
And moving on with the super chats, Charles W. Jansen II says, HBO Max subs. There's a lot of donuts. Kill the theaters? Yep. They don't care. No, this is true. HBO Max really don't care. They want to see them gone. And a human says for $10, thank you so much, been watching indie movie shorts on YouTube that has better stories than movies in the last few years. Really, they're more like watching episodes from Twilight Zone or Outer Limits. Hello, Lauren Chen, and a heart. So, yeah. And 52 movies a year says 2020, the year of things nobody saw coming.
Right.
And what's its face says for $5, exactly nothing, but thanks for the
donation.
support anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Okia Native says, the day I can go back to my real hobby of gambling in the casinos and chasing women, I'm canceling most of my streaming services. That actually goes to the point, like bread and circus, and the people need to be provided with their circus, and that's what streaming is, modern day circus. Keep us all in line. And Straight White Mage says, movies will move to retro, comics will move to back issues, Redbox will be the wave of the future. Anyone remember Blockbuster? Photomat?
Man, I was getting nostalgic over Blockbuster memories the other day. I do miss it. There's something special.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, my background is in the video industry. So trust me, I miss it quite a bit too. Like, yeah, it was my. There's nothing more than I loved going down the aisles, and it's not the same having a Netflix to flip through.
Yeah.
I will also say that being Norwegian, I especially missed when I was a child going through the video store, looking at the video box covers with all of the genre movies, because I had no idea that half of that stuff was even coming, because so many things in Norway never went to theaters. They all just went straight to VHS and later straight to DVD. Like, for instance, in the year 2000, when X-Men came in theaters, I was honestly shocked because I fully expected it to go straight to VHS. That's what movies like that usually would do. And there are so many movies that I discovered by browsing through just the VHS store. Things that I never had heard about, that I had no idea the existence of. Like Masters of the Universe. That's how I discovered that. I didn't know that was a movie until I was browsing through the video store, and I saw it there shine towards me. I was like, literally, what sorcery is this? How has this been kept from me?
It feels so
good times
back, and it's so not like that anymore. Except actually, I had a mini version of that. Apparently, there's a third Johnny English movie that I had no idea existed until the other day.
It came out like 2 years ago.
But that's the first time I've ever been surprised that a movie has been released out now, because we're all on social media and we get like production updates and release updates.
I kind of had that with, I think it was Backdraft 2 now. There's a Backdraft 2, and be like, okay. Like 20 years after the fact, but all right. Yeah.
Script Doctor makes a good point. A lot harder to find hidden gems on a streaming service compared to the old video store model. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Only goes to, it's like the same thing on YouTube. Like, how good is the YouTube recommends algorithm versus how many stuff that you actually want to see is being hidden from you. That's like the thing
let's
there.
put it this way. I turned off Netflix's recommendation thing because it sucks in my opinion, and never like most of the stuff it picks is shit I would never watch or I hated.
Yeah.
So it's like, how this thing doesn't know anything about me? It's like, whatever. And I used to do that shit for a living. Like, I would know my customers. Like, I know this customer likes this. I know, so I generally would know what to recommend. To me, an algorithm can't do that.
They can try and they can fail miserably.
Exactly.
But let's move on with the super chats. We're almost caught up. Thunderstorm says Dune 2, The Woke. See what you did there. And M Tax Shark says, great chat as always. Lauren's point is well taken about multiple streaming sites. Also, imagine how navigating this will be for the tech unsavvy.
Yeah.
Get tech savvy, that's all I can say.
My parents don't use any streaming. They don't know how. They don't want to. I mean, and that's, a big thing I think that's going to go forward is how many people are willing to adapt.
Oh, well, your parents, they have you.
They still won't.
Yeah. Same with my parents. They're not going to adapt. They're going to rely on me and my brother to like stop in once in a while and keep them entertained and up to date.
I guess.
Yeah, my dad's pretty good. My mother just watches reruns of Downton Abbey, so
there you go. See, that's kind of like my folks. Like my dad watches news all day, and my mom watches her shows that are kind of like the one we're going to talk about in just a moment when we're done with super chats here.
I have to say, the Downton Abbey, the movie, was surprisingly good.
Right? I went to go see that with my mother, actually, and I was the youngest person in that theater by several generations. But I hadn't watched the series, but I could still understand it. I was like, it's not bad.
No, my wife is a big fan of the series, so we went to see it, and of course we were the youngest in that audience by a wide margin. But I enjoyed that movie. It was fun.
And my mom was happy because that was the first movie we let her choose since she made us go see Eat, Pray, Love. So it had been a while.
So she was out of movie choosing jail.
Yeah, for many years.
Yeah, I've been there. Not myself, but the people on the other end.
Yeah, indeed.
Let's put it this way: I went to the theater expecting to see School of Rock. Ended up seeing Under the Tuscan Sun.
Oh,
never allowed that person to pick a movie ever again.
Right, you got to take away the privileges after that.
It's like, what the fuck?
I only had an experience like that once, and this was way back in 1997, I think it was. Because then me and a friend were going to the cinema to see Batman and Robin. No, we didn't know how bad the movie was going to be. We just know that it was going to be Batman. It's in the cinema, and let's go see it. and we expected it to be like all of these bright colors and everything, and then the movie starts and it's like this water scene, looks like it's filmed from a speedboat, and I was like thinking, this can't be right. And then you suddenly have like the music beats from Speed, and it turned out that we had walked into the wrong screen and we were in Speed 2 cruise control. And we were like, oh, what the hell? Well, fine. Let's never mind. Let's just finish watching this.
Oh my God!
It was a better movie than Batman and Robin.
True, I guess. In the grand scheme of things, you're probably better off.
So we were better off, which we decided when we eventually did go to see Batman and Robin. That that Speed thing, this Speed 2 thing, that's looking awfully good right about now.
If anybody asked, we meant to go see that instead, right?
It was funny because like the cruise ship it was filmed on was Norwegian, so it was like, hey, we can read the signs there. So
nice. Well, there you
fun.
go. At least it got you interested. Like, here's a funny thing. I got a Batman and Robin story real quick. Like, I got drugged to that film. I loved Batman Forever, but for some reason, just the Batman and Robin trailers rubbed me the wrong way. But I had a friend, she was like, it's the best Batman movie ever. You got to see it. So since it was one of the few times I ever wanted to walk out of a movie, but since I was not the one who drove and paid for it, I couldn't walk out. So I was like stuck through the whole damn thing. It was a horrible experience. I was just like, oh man, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Well, I think most people are going to have a bad experience one way or the other when it comes to Batman and Robin, and mine may actually be one of the better ones since I walked into the wrong movie.
You lucked out, yeah. But anyway, speaking of luck, let's get through these super chats here.
Yes,
we're lucky enough to have
through the super chats. Okia Native says the Wheel of Time series was better than Game of Thrones. You hold that thought for when it comes on Amazon. Hold that thought.
You mean, yeah, I was gonna say it hasn't been out yet, has it?
No, it's not out yet. But let's just say that the Jennifer Salk, who was the new person that came in to clean up Amazon, both with their policy in terms of like HR practices and with the content on screen and everything, she canceled Conan because of toxic masculinity, and she was the one who pushed Wheel of Time because that could be made female centric. Yeah. So you might want to keep that in mind. Tom, you were saying something
about.
No, I don't know. Then I'll continue.
Oh, I was just saying I didn't know the show was out yet. That's all I said.
No, it's not out yet.
Yeah, that's what I was confused. Yeah. He must mean the books. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea of the books. Probably the books are fine. And Coreon, Witch in Residence, says if HBO Max wants to compete with Disney Plus and Netflix, they're going to need to go international. I'd buy HBO Max. If my can credit card worked?
Yeah, I get
you. It's going to come. It's going to come. I can now also reveal that HBO Nordic, to anyone in the Nordic region who may be watching, is going to be converted to HBO Max in the not too.
I'm willing to bet if you go to the Wonder Woman announcement, they had a bunch of countries announced where it will be premiering. I'm willing to bet that any of those countries in that list are probably going to have HBO Max by the end of the year or beginning of next year.
Not necessarily,
but a lot of
possibly, but not necessarily, because it depends on who they've licensed it out to in advance.
Well, that of course matters as well, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of them, yeah.
And if you are Canadian, I recommend the next time when you can drive to the States, or if you're ever in the States again, buy one of those refillable Visa cards or like prepaid.
Can you order them from Amazon?
I don't know if you can order them from Amazon, because I've gone to pharmacies, I've gotten those, and I've put like stuff that only accepts American cards on those cards, and it does work, or at least it works some of the time in my experience.
Right, and then of course you'll need a VPN like Surfshark.
Yes, very important, especially with I don't know if HBO Max still isn't in Canada, so you'd need it.
Not yet.
In the first place, yeah.
But I'm assuming that's going to be one of their first big next countries they'll probably land.
Oh, we should reach out to them and see if we can do like a joint Surfshark promotion. But anyway, that's for another discussion.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks anyway. And Toners the Tree says, good show, thanks. And Comrade
you.
Commissar Yuri says, it seems D&D watched Preston Jacobs. He made a joke on a stream. What are we going to have? Arya coming out of nowhere to kill the Night King? Never joke about stuff like that. You never ever make jokes like that. You never know who might be listening.
Yeah, we've said the same thing on some shows.
Yeah. And Shadow Fenrir 24 says for $10, thank you so much. Hail Andre, Tom, and Lauren. I was always under the impression D&D rushed Game of Thrones for their KOTOR Star Wars trilogy. I've also been rewatching Vikings, which is a much better Game of Thrones in my opinion. Yeah, Vikings is awesome. It's an awesome show, yeah.
I stopped watching like the season after Ragnar died.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you, but it's still a true story. At least insofar like the major beats are all still true. That's the cool thing about it.
Is there karate in it?
No, there's no karate in it.
Then Rob won't watch
but it's a very brutal axe fight. So there's that. It has that going for it.
I might watch it, but Rob probably won't then. But maybe if I tell him there's axe fights in it.
Yeah, well, we can lie and tell him there will be karate in the end.
Anyway, sorry, that's an ongoing joke. Anyway, whenever we ask Rob if he's seen something or wants to see something, he's like, "Well, is there karate in it?" Anyway.
Well, we can tell him that yes, it's Norwegian karate.
Norwegian karate. That works for me. Is this the next super chat, or did we get jumped ahead on the?
We jumped ahead, but that's fine since we have it on screen. PRRK4 Pacific says for $10. Thank you so much. What do you think the future of comedy is on streaming? Do you think we will ever see the likes of In Living Color again?
Not likely.
Lauren, I'm curious. What do you think of this? Do you think we'll ever get a show like In Living Color again?
I have yet to find a streaming exclusive comedy that I'm really invested in.
I think yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I have nothing. I can't even think of one. I really enjoyed Veep, which was also on HBO, but I wouldn't call that like a streaming exclusive. So I'm trying to think of like Netflix. Nope. Do you guys like any comedies that are?
The closest thing that we've ever gotten to In Living Color would be the Chappelle Show, and unless like Netflix decides to give him a revamped version of that, I don't see us getting anything remotely close. Like we'll get like stand-up comedians like Bill Burr and Chappelle that will do that kind of comedy, but as far as a show in that vein, if they tried to do something like that now, I think that it would be so woke it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah.
I think that we're not going to get much more sitcom comedies because the market for them simply aren't there. Like if you look at the TV model, then what were sitcom comedies? They were disposable things that you don't have to pay attention to every single episode. You catch an episode here, you catch an episode there, and it's fun. You get to laugh a little bit and you go back to your life. And maybe like in a month, you catch another episode. Like not many people, or comparatively not many people, are religiously watching the sitcom series.
Well, in Living Color, I don't know if you're aware of it, Andre.
I'm aware of it. But that's
SNL, but yeah.
But like it's like the same basic thing. It's still scripted TV. It's like your Saturday Night Live, only good, and so back in the day.
So, comedy in general doesn't translate very well into all international markets necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too. I don't think that the economies of scale are there for it. I think you're going to get the comedy specials, but where they get the most bang for their buck is in drama series and genre series, where you can basically get the audience hooked. And stuff that works as well for any audiences everywhere, that you can either dub or subtitle and it's going to work. You don't necessarily have that with comedy because it tends to be very regional.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get much comedy.
I think Byron says like South Park is probably one of the last bastions of comedy like that.
Animation, like you kind of like have it there. I think you're going to have your South Park, going to have your Family Guys, Bob's Burgers apparently is fun. It's the stuff like that.
I don't know anybody who likes it, but yeah.
Well, they keep on making it, so
I know, like, I don't understand, but anyway, yeah. Sorry, we accidentally missed a few super chats you said, Andre, though.
Yeah, we have one that we missed from Nicholas Horton that says George caused most of the problem by not getting a move on with Winds of Winter. Yeah, that was a strategic mistake, wasn't it? Although, to be fair, he was asked to do that Fire Dragon House something. I can never even remember the name of it. And the Fessman 93 says, let's use the super chats for Tom to buy a cougar. And
he means an actual cat. This comes from a Meat episode, to be clear, because we were watching a guy who has a pet cougar, and I'm like, that guy's gonna get ate in his sleep. It's a long story anyway. So now everybody's trying to get me to get one. I'm like, no, I already got a cat that probably would eat me if I died. I don't need a cougar that will
do that. Has to do that.
Yes, this one will do it if I'm alive.
Go to Florida and get yourself a tiger. That should be fun.
I don't need to be the next Tiger King. That's the problem.
And
yeah, I'm pretty libertarian, but even when I was watching Tiger King, I was like, this shouldn't be. This should not be a thing.
I'm gay as shit. I'm married. I have been to prison. That show. Did you ever watch that whole thing, Andre, or no?
No, I honestly lost interest like midway through.
Oh, the ending is where it starts getting better. Yeah.
Watching. Yeah, it's like it gets crazier and crazier the longer you watch, and there are like 0 redeeming characters in that whole thing.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. But yeah, the crazy stuff is in the latter parts. Like if you think the first parts were crazy, shit, you should get yourself back into it for sure.
Yeah, maybe at some point I will, but it's not an immediate priority. And then final super chat of the day, that nobody guy for $10. Thank you so much, says, the ginger side of characters is so strange. They are a tiny minority being erased in media. Learning that Lauren likes nerdy stuff makes me appreciate her even more. Cheers. Good stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the best part is even though the media doesn't want you to believe it, there are women that do like geeky stuff. In fact, we have a whole show dedicated to that called Toxic Femininity.
Yeah.
On Monday nights at 9 p.m. So if
a lot of the like media channels that I watch are women, like Amanda the Jedi, Anna, like
Anna, she's on here quite often.
Yeah, given a good mutual acquaintance or mutual friend right there. So that's also awesome.
Absolutely. And before we go, we had a nice laugh before the show because I don't know if anybody's heard about this, but evidently Lauren wanted to talk a little bit about this. I saw this too. I wasn't sure if it was real, and she's like, holy shit, it's real. It's real. KFC has a movie called A Recipe for Seduction. Evidently it's about Colonel Sanders meeting the love of his life. Is that what I'm gathering here, Lauren?
Yeah, Colonel Sanders played by Mario Lopez.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that Mario Lopez?
Casting. Apparently this is like a Lifetime mini movie that seems to be like just essentially an ad for KFC. Yeah, it's going to be out December 13th.
Well, we had Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, so why not?
Yeah. Mr. Tickle Trunk says the top trailer is so odd. Yeah, I think like Lauren's saying, it's kind of like a goof of a bit of a elongated advertisement more than anything, a mini movie, what have you. But I don't know, it's kind of funny.
Well,
it's
like
almost...
we were talking about the future of streaming and stuff. if studios can't sell tickets, and this is going to be the future of how movies are funded. It's going to be like Pepsi presents whatever film, and you're going to have some nice product placement in there.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because this is something we've actually touched on, not on this show per se, but on Mead last night. We were talking about how ads and stuff might be coming in, but this is another possibility as well. Yeah. Oh my goodness!
I can't wait for
see now, so it's not working. Although seeing sexy Colonel Sanders is a trip.
I can't wait for Walt Disney's Die Hard at McDonald's.
Goofy's going to play Powell. I shot a kid.
Oh, they have Fox now, so why not get Bruce Willis back for it?
It was dark. I thought he had a real gun.
Oh yeah, good times, good times. Well, we certainly live in interesting times, and they're only going to get more interesting from here on out, aren't they? Not necessarily sure things are going to get better, but
Donald
they're certainly
Duck.
going to get more interesting. So, got to have fun.
Yeah.
Donald Duck plays Han Gruber. Nobody can understand a word he's saying.
I totally watched that.
I figured you would. Disney's Die Hard at a restaurant. Huh, if I get out of here alive. Fist with your toes. It works. Son of a bitch.
I should go for an audition for Hans Gruber myself. See if I can make my accent more German.
Actually, better yet, they'd have Uncle Scrooge playing Hans Gruber. That'd be good. What's that you said? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! I think I'm keeping me money. I know my Uncle Scrooge is not that good, but... All right. Well, we want to thank Lauren. It's been an amazing show having you here. We're glad to have you back. Always fun to talk to you. The audience loved having you on, obviously. So thank you so much for coming on to the morning show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me again. Love the videos. Appreciate all the work that you put into them, and it's great stuff, really.
Well, thank you, and likewise, we're big fans of your channel, and we love the work that you put into your videos, and for your continuing to keep the internet and the world sane.
Yeah, absolutely. So until next time, folks, please take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next Midnight's Edge in the morning.